Hi, everyone. This is Mr. Turner. Just thought I'd make a brief video about that previews lesson 8 in our textbook. And the topic for discussion would be the aorist tense. Now, the aorist tense is different than any tense we've encountered in Latin or Greek before, at least in terms of its name. But it's pretty simple as far as how to understand it. The aorist tense comes from the third principal part of a Greek verb. So we go to the third principal part of a Greek verb to get it and get the stem. And what it does is it denotes a simple past action. So an action done in the past once and for no discernible period of time. So the description in the textbook under the header, the aorist tense verbal aspect, is good, and I recommend that you read it. For this video, I'm just going to talk about the formation of it. Okay, so I'm going to use the paradigm that's in the textbook on page 31, and the verb is paiduo. So let's just look at this verb's principal part. Okay, so you have paiduo, which is our first principal part. We would get the present forms from that. And then a regular form in the future, paiduso. Notice the sigma there. And then here is our aorist form. Okay, and right away you notice that it's different in that it has an epsilon. And this is what we're going to talk about in a bit. This epsilon here is called a temporal augment. Okay, so let's focus just on the aorist and let's break this verb up. Okay, just as it does in your textbook. The three parts would be, the first part here being the temporal augment, okay? The second part being the base form, the stem of the verb, and then here you have your aorist ending. And your textbook talks about first aorist and second aorist. This brief video is just on the first. I'll make another one for the second. But if you were to break it up into three parts, you have temporal augment, which is the epsilon. You have the base verb stem, and then your aorist ending. And the aorist endings quickly would be sa, sas, se, sam, and sata, san. So let's just quickly conjugate this verb. I'm going to not break it up, at least for this purposes. Pai, ju, se, and it has a movable nu. The plurals, I'm going to go down here instead of across. The plural here would be pai, ju, sa, men. Notice the thematic vowel there is alpha. Pai, ju, sa, te. And then I need a rough breathing here. And then pai, ju, san. Okay. So the translation is simply, I educated, you educated, he, she, or it educated, we educated, y'all educated, they educated. Okay, so our first aorist endings would be sa, sa, se, sam, and sata, san. You can see, remnants of our endings there, the s, the e, men, te, and then n. But this is the first time we'll be dealing with new verb endings, whereas before it was just o, ace, e, amen, eta, on. Excuse me, o, ace, e, amen, eta, usi. Now you have sa, sa, se, sam, and sata, san you got to look out for. Okay, you can also get an aorist infinitive. And just real quickly, if I show you what the infinitive of this verb would look like, as an infinitive, you have viewing, and then for future, with the sigma just added, right? Now you have an aorist infinitive. It's going to look a little different. This first aorist infinitive gets no augment because the augment only happens for the indicative. You have you psi, okay? You psi. Now the reason that it gets circumflex is because for purposes of accentuation, the ultima is short, and with a long penult, you got to put that circumflex there. Notice that there's no augment, right? No augment for the aorist here. Okay, only indicative gets augment. Now, translating these, present would be to educate, to be about to educate, and the infinitive is just to educate. There's no difference in translating the aorist infinitive from the present infinitive. The difference is in terms of aspect, okay? And we'll talk more about that in class. All right, so that's just a very quick introduction to the first aorist using this very regular verb, paiduo. The bad news is that we have to now go back and look more closely at the verbs we've learned thus far and see their third principal parts. Okay, so be prepared for a principal part quiz to come soon. Thanks.